am sitting here with the world famous Michael Burkey of Michigan Dog Training in Plymouth, Michigan. I feel like I'm interviewing, royalty, because you are, like I said earlier, you are world renowned expert for the dog world, right?
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to know, I want to know everything about you, actually. And this is Simba. Simba. And tell me a little bit about, because Simba is now 3 legs only. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, he had bone cancer. We found out last year, and he.
Oh, this is just recent.
Yeah, it was last
Oh
December.
my goodness. Okay.
And we didn't know he had bone cancer until he went down my steps and took a fall and broke his leg. So I took him to the vet, and the break was right where the cancer is. So we found it by chance, and hopefully before it metastasized.
Oh yeah, of course.
And but he's getting along really well, and
he's good.
He walks faster than I do now.
Yeah, and you told me that this is a natural thing that they learn to now walk on the 3 legs.
Yeah,
it's not something you train them for.
They're very adaptable. Yeah. At first I had to put a towel underneath his belly to help support him, but it's a little bit easier for dogs when it's a hind leg than a front leg.
Oh, okay.
Because the front legs, they really put a lot of their weight on, and they really only need one leg for balance once they learn how to balance themselves.
Okay. And I'm sure people are wondering, what breed is Simba?
He's a Belgian Malinois.
Okay.
And he's 12 years.
Malinois?
Malinois.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the Belgian Shepherd.
Okay.
There's 4 varieties of it. Here in the States, there are all 4 separate breeds, but in Europe, it's one breed with 4 coat variations.
I almost wish we did this in your office now, because Michael has an incredible picture where a wolf is giving him a kiss. So Michael is wonderful with animals and dogs. So I wanted to know a little bit. You told me a little bit about how this started for you and how this love for dogs started. Can you tell everybody how this started?
Yeah. So when I was a child, when I came home from the hospital and growing up during the first 4 years, I couldn't hear. They thought I was learning disabled. My mom says I would hide underneath tables. I wouldn't try to communicate with people. And at 4 years of age, fortunately, they diagnosed me with allergies, and my ear canals were blocked. So I couldn't hear anything. Once they were able to treat it, and I'm probably dating myself, that 61 years ago, they couldn't diagnose it coming home from the hospital, or it probably developed soon after the hospital because it was allergies. But whereas today they would know right away if the child couldn't hear. Right?
Really? Okay.
But back then it took them 4 years to diagnose it. They got me a speech therapist, and the speech therapist said, get him a dog, because I used to hide underneath tables when people come over. She said that he'll sit there with the dog, try to make babbling noises, try to communicate with the dog, even if they're just babbling noises. And then she worked with me to start to form words and later sentences. But that's how I learned how to talk. Basically, a dog taught me how to talk.
Wow, giving that dog a lot of credit. That's wonderful of you. And then, so is that what ignited your passion, or was it later when you joined that troop that you were talking about?
Yeah, I think it was the start, but it was the start of something I didn't know or understand because I was only 4 years old.
Okay.
But looking back at it now, when I specialize in training service dogs, I can really understand, and also I had PTSD from law enforcement. I can really understand people that have some challenges in life and need a service dog, and how beneficial dogs can be with them, because the dog basically taught me how to talk. And then my shepherd, Starbuck, helped me through the PTSD. He's no longer with me.
I'm very curious, how did this dog help you? That's very interesting, a very interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, how was the dog responsible for helping you?
He could tell when I got anxious about certain situations, and then he would jump up in my lap, and then all my focus is on him instead of what is bothering me. And I trained him to do that. So,
you trained him to do that?
Yeah.
How did you even know how to train him to do that if this was something newish to you, right?
Yeah.
Or had you been trained before?
Yeah,
to do
I'd
this?
been training before that, and then I thought, you know what, I'll just train my own dog for that. And he's passed on now, but he really helped me through the difficult times. And but then also when I was younger in high school, I was part of Law Enforcement Explorers because I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement. And the leader of the group was a police canine deputy, and so I would lay trails for his dog. We became friends. And what's really cool is when I did become a deputy, we rode together. So I went from this law enforcement explorer to actually riding with the canine officer that I admired so much. And so I learned a lot about hiding from the dogs, and basically you can't hide from them; they'll find you, right? But it was a lot of fun, and then later I became a canine officer myself for the city of Mount Morris, and just loved doing that.
And then, now here we are today in this incredible facility. Tell me a little bit about, because you know, I'm sure a lot of people would like to go into business of some sort. This is such a huge place. I would think that starting something like this might be overwhelming. How did you even begin to put this together and to do this?
Yeah.
And what exactly do you do here for people?
Sure. To think about, okay, how did you get this place? How did you start it? Could be quite overwhelming, right? If you were trying to do something all of a sudden. It's really important to do things step by step. And so I was a federal officer, and at the same time I could work for myself part-time, training people's dogs, and I did that in homes. And then
Mickey Stanley's home.
That was a really cool moment because as a child, I collected all the Detroit Tigers baseball cards. But into adulthood, his was the only one I kept, just because I admired him so much as a child. And lo and behold, he became one of my clients, and so life full circle.
That's incredible.
He's such a down-to-earth guy, just like I imagined he would be. But so you want to start progression, and so I did the in-homes. Then I worked as a behaviorist and a group class instructor for the Huron Valley Humane Society, and taught group classes there. I evaluated their dogs, because sometimes when the behavior director there wasn't sure about a certain dog, whether it could, you know, like she would know it couldn't go into a home to be adopted, but could it go to like a law enforcement agency instead of being put down? And so I would go and help evaluate the dogs for that.
Good.
And then I got a part-time building that I could use in the evenings and weekends, and then finally I found this location and could have it all to myself.
Wow, that's wonderful. Okay, now, important advice, because this is doggone good advice. What I saw that you're an expert. I mean, his list of credentials is longer than this road we're on, okay? So I saw in your credentials that you have a very expert understanding of how do you break up a dog fight, how do you protect yourself in a dog attack, how do you react when there's two dogs attacking each other. Can you give people a little bit of advice on that?
Yeah, good point. So if a dog is coming up to you and aggressively, the best thing not to do is to run, because they will catch you. Yeah, they will.
Lord.
Unless you've got something to get behind or through a doorway or something like that. But if not, then the best thing to do is to lay down, cover up your ears and neck, and hopefully someone is going to be able to come and help.
If you're laying on the ground, will the dog proceed to attack you laying down?
May or may not.
Okay,
you know,
because you're laying down, they decide maybe I don't want to attack this
yeah,
person?
they may come up and sniff you, but you could still get bit.
Oh, okay.
But you try to protect your vital organs
Okay.
here on the front, and then as well as, you know, your ears.
So
and,
lay face down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But if you can get away,
Uh-huh.
you know, as far as like through a door or something like that, obviously that would be the best choice.
Okay.
But sometimes people, you know, they're out in the open and they decide they're just going to run. You're not going to outrun that dog.
Oh.
If I want to try to separate dogs that
Yes.
are fighting,
Yes.
what you don't want to do is grab them by the collar, because when you grab even your own dog by the collar and pull them back, they may be the most loving dog to you, but they may also just out of reflex spin around and go, let me at that dog. I'm in a fight for my life and you're pulling me away.
Okay.
And they may turn to bite you for you to let go. So that's why you don't want to do that. Instead, what I would do is pick up the hind legs with Simba to be a little bit hard because he's missing one leg, but right behind the hips, and pick them up like a wheelbarrow.
Okay.
And they'll probably spin a little bit with you, and you just turn with them. And then they can see you and they go, oh, okay, and you can create distance. So now they're not as likely to bite you. Now you can grab the collar to take them away.
Okay, but as you're pulling that dog away by the hind legs, what if that other dog is still coming at him?
Well, hopefully the other owner is doing that as well.
Okay, so you're assuming that there's another owner.
Right.
What if there wasn't an owner? What if it was two dogs and you're the only person there? What would you do?
There is a product called Pet Corrector, and they make one larger bottle and one smaller to carry like on walks. It's just condensed air, and so it's not going to harm the dog, but it comes up really fast and makes a loud noise, louder than what I did.
Yeah.
And it will scare most mild to medium aggressive dogs away. So if you're going on walks, things like that, I would carry that with you.
And it's called what again?
Pet Corrector.
Pet Corrector?
It's sold in the pet stores, or you can find it on Google or on Amazon. So you got a dog coming to you, maybe I'm yelling to the owner because they're a long ways away. I had one situation where, oh, he's just fine, he won't bite. But I was walking with a couple dogs that had some dog aggression issues. And I said, call your dog. She wasn't. And I was at the ready with the Pet Corrector. And I know I could have scared the dog away, but then fortunately, at the last minute, he turned and walked away, so I didn't have to spray him. But it's very effective.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that way you don't have to have hands-on in most situations.
Oh, oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and if you had the Pet Corrector with you too, you could use that with two dogs fighting
Before you
pull the legs. And when you do pull the legs, you just have to be of the understanding that if they're really latched onto the dog, if you forcibly pull them away, you may end up causing a worse bite on the other dog because you know they haven't let go.
Yeah.
But lots of times when you pick them up initially, they're like, oh my gosh, what happened, right? They're just trying to look behind them, and they'll usually will let go.
Okay.
So it's a matter of picking them up, hopefully let go, and then pull them away.
Okay. So, but if you pull the dog away, your dog, what if that dog, the other dog, is still hanging on with their mouth? Are you saying that they will let go because the other dog is shifted?
Not necessarily.
So what do you do in a case like that where the other dog doesn't let go?
Yeah, all you can do is be yelling at the other dog, try to create distance with your dog. Hopefully that, you know, your dog letting go, maybe the other dog will let go, maybe the other owner is there. I mean, it's really hard to say in every scenario do this because there's so many variables.
Right, okay. And also last question, because you've been so kind with your time. Last question is, my daughter, like I said, is a dog whisperer. She loves dogs. And she has an Australian Shepherd, and I think he's a pit bull mix is the other dog. And they both pull her so hard when she goes to walk them. What can you do in a case when you're trying to walk a dog and the dog's taking you for a drag instead of you taking the dog for a walk?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So there's some different tools. I would not put the dog on a body harness. Lots of times people have the body harness and a leash attaches at the back. That's actually, it's sold as a walking harness, but it's actually a pulling harness.
Oh.
That's the strongest part of their body to be able to pull forward. When we train protection dogs, sled dogs, they're in a harness because when you pull back, they tend to go forward more. It's oppositional reflex.
Oh, okay.
So you want the leash to be at the neck collar.
Okay.
I like martingale collars because they're a limited slip. They're nylon, but they don't keep getting tight like a choke collar would. Choke collars don't do any good for pulling because it keeps getting tighter and tighter, and they're still pulling.
Yeah.
You would think they'd stop pulling, but they don't.
Okay.
But the martingale, you can pre-measure it so it will only get as tight as you selected.
Okay.
So what's nice about it is it's nice and loose on the neck when there's no tension on the leash, like off leash or whatever. So it's nice and loose like people like. But then if they're trying to back out of it on leash, it won't slip over their head, but it also won't gag them.
Okay, good.
Some other things you can do is there's also
So why would whatever's around their neck influence them pulling the person?
Well, I'm sorry, it wouldn't necessarily stop the pulling,
Okay.
but it's not going to slip off them.
Okay.
Right. But then there's a couple products, or 3 products I'd recommend. One is a halty or a gentle leader. It goes around the muzzle, and so it's sort of like a horse's, I don't know what they call it, whether it's a head harness or something like that. But it goes around the mouth, so it's nice and loose when there's no tension on the leash. But when there is tension on the leash, it closes their mouth. And if you step back, where the head goes, the body follows, is the idea. The downside of those two, the halty or gentle leader, is it takes time to get the dog used to it because they don't like this on their muzzle. And you have to show a little tough love. Nope, sit. And then they get calm, walk a few steps. Nope, sit. So it takes a little part on the owner. There's also an easy walk harness, which I generally recommend over the other two. It's a body harness, but the leash attaches at the chest. And it's almost like horses' reins, that if they pull, they'll feel it because it slides back and forth a little bit. And so when they pull, it'll pull one shoulder back, and they don't want to walk forward when they're being pulled back, right? And so that really helps. It probably takes about 75% of the pull out of a dog without even training.
Wow.
And then there's electronic collars. Electronic collars, they're actually a great training tool.
Does it shock the dog? Does it hurt the dog?
It's like a tense unit. A tense unit is a muscle stimulator. I had it for a separated shoulder. There's a right way and a wrong way to use them. Most people only know how to use it at a high level and as a punisher. We don't do that. We use it as a communication tool. It's like a tap on the shoulder.
And it's a part of a collar? It's a collar.
And you control it by your thumb. And the ones that we use is Dogtra, has a high number of levels, like 127, whereas the ones in the pet stores have like 10. It doesn't mean that it's stronger. It has the same output, max output, but it's got tinier steps. So I can use the lowest level possible. The ones that have like 10 make big jumps, and you can't use the lowest level. So what I'm looking for is like a little ear twitch, or the dog's looking to the ground like, where did that come from? Not a shocking level.
Good.
Right? But it's, I always teach things other than walking, because walking I can start right with the e-collar, and it's just tactile communication, like, hey, pay attention to me. And very quickly, in 5 to 10 minutes, I got the dog walking with the owner. It's that quick. The other commands, like sit down, place, I always train with food first, so the dog understands what I expect. But then from the e-collar, you get the reliability, and eventually off-leash freedom too.
Wonderful. So is there anything else you'd like to give for doggone good advice to anybody in general?
In general, train frequent. So frequency of training is more important than length of time. So don't feel like you gotta do a half hour or an hour walk. You know, if you did 10, 20 minutes, but you did it a couple times a day, 5 days a week, that's generally pretty good training. And obviously the more you do, the better. But like when I was on the police force, we would train our dogs as a group like 6 times a day. And they come out, do something for 10, 15 minutes, put them back up, go to the next dog, and then a little bit later get my dog back out. So the frequency, because they have shorter attention span than kids, right? And so you want them active, you want them involved, you want them having fun, and then not a boring thing, right? And then the other tip along with that is I would say put training on your schedule, because otherwise if it's not on your schedule, life happens, you won't get to it. It's sort of like going to the gym, you gotta put it on your schedule, because otherwise life happens. So at first I put it on the schedule. This is the time that I can train my dog. I got the time to do it, and I will do it, and I'm dedicated to it. And then as time goes by, you don't have to put it on the schedule anymore, because it's just, this is how we always do things. Like I'm talking with you, and he's just on it down. I'm not training. He's practicing what he already knows, right? But so frequency of training, and put it on your schedule.
And one more thing, I think people are going to be so excited about seeing you and hearing what you have to say. Can you tell people what you have to offer here at your training facility?
Sure. We have a wide variety of programs. So if you don't have the time and patience to train your dog, we have board and train where they come and stay with us for a period of weeks, from 2 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Depending on what your goals are. For service dogs, we have an 8-week board and train, because we not only have to do the obedience, but also public access obedience, where we're taking the dog into stores, things like that, plus the service tasks. And we train mobility, diabetic alert, hearing alert for PTSD, and then also some cardiac alert as well, where the dog learns to, if the person collapses, goes unconscious, the dog knows to go over to the wall where there's this yellow plate, and they press that, and it calls 2 numbers, 911, and the other dedicated family member.
That's amazing.
So, and then we have day train if you live locally, where you can drop off during the day and pick up in the evening, and that runs Monday through Friday. If you want to be involved in the training, then we have private lessons, which if your dog has aggression issues towards other dogs or people, that's a program that you want. I have an 8-lesson package for that. If your dog is friendly, then we also have group classes. And you know, basic manners, puppy manners, canine good citizen. In November, we're going to start up our nose work class again, which is finding legal sense, just like a police drug dog would, but it's legal sense. And it really keeps them active, especially in the wintertime. You can practice it right in your home with the scent work. So yeah, and then we also offer daycare, where the dogs can come in and have fun with the other dogs during the day.
Wonderful. Okay. And one more thing.
Oh, and I forgot, also boarding. So if you're going on vacation or something, we do boarding as well.
And the one more thing I was going to say is you're also a television expert. So do you have something coming up on a news station that people could watch your interview?
Not currently. I was just interviewed again by Channel 7 about, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. So I've been on 2, 4, and 7 12 times over the years, Newsnet Media, and also WJR Radio.
Wow. Okay. So can people like go to these different stations and access that piece?
Sure. They could search for me and probably find me, but also I haven't put the latest one yet on my website, but they could go to my website.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, MichiganDogTraining.com.
Okay.
And be able to look for the media and watch the videos.
Okay. And that's where they could get your contact information as well, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank
This has been so interesting, so exciting to get to spend time with you, because I know you're probably super busy guy because you're in such demand, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
This was a pleasure. Thank you.